Welcome to TNT Sports Talk. Today is Tuesday, August 6th. As always, we're presented by D's Home Cuts. I'm your host, Travis Karcheski, joined by my other host, Truman Karcheski.
How's it going, guys?
We were supposed to have a guest on today, but that got mixed up with the time. It's our fault, it's our bad, but we will have a guest on Thursday. But we had a pretty fun weekend. We went up to Green Bay, got to see training camp for the Packers. It was we were pretty close. It was a pretty fun day. Got some autographs. Met the general manager. It was a really cool experience. Got to sit up close, watch all the new pieces run around, make some plays, all the new draft picks, and it was just a really fun weekend.
Yeah, it was awesome just to see all those players close up. Jimmy Graham, how big he was, and just being that close to Aaron Rodgers is always a dream come true. And then we got some autographs. Obviously, people saw the picture with the GM. It was a really fun day, and I suggest going to training camp for whatever team you root for because you're really gonna close up, see how those players work, and their usual routines and how they practice. It's awesome. And we also went to the Brewers game on Saturday. They won 8-4. We saw a grand slam. A 6-run first inning. So that's always fun to watch them. So it was an overall great weekend up in Wisconsin with our family. I know we both had a lot of fun.
Yeah, but over the weekend, we're still dealing with the Urban Meyer situation. He released a statement Friday claiming that he did report the domestic abuse allegation to the proper channels. Basically, said, I did my job. I did what I was supposed to do. Zach Smith did an interview. I forget where it was on. He claims that he never abused his wife and it was just a big misunderstanding. Again, if he did it, he's a scumbag. There's been a lot of reports that, a bunch of different incidents. I don't want to put blame on one side here if nothing has been, I don't know all the evidence. But Urban Meyer, I think this situation has been kind of blown out of proportion. I think it's been a slow news weeks, and I think it's been kind of blown out of proportion. People saying he's going to get fired. I think now he's not going to get fired. I think the investigation is going to wrap up here in a couple days. Camp just started for Ohio State. I think they're going to give him a couple days to investigate this, let this simmer down a little bit more, and then he'll be back. Maybe a 1 to 2 game suspension, if at most, which kind of worries me because we do play TCU very early, but I think Ohio State's going to be able to handle them pretty easily. But I think Urban Meyer will be back. He's not going to get fired over an incident like this. There's just a lot of evidence, no evidence. There's just really nothing clear cut that says he did something wrong here. I think Urban Meyer will be back. Maybe that is a little biased, but that's just how it is. I don't think they're going to fire somebody over a situation like this.
Well, it's not. It's a serious issue. I think you're blowing it just past because you don't want to think about it. You don't want to hear about it. You don't want to see anything about it. But it's a serious issue that we all need to be watching. It hasn't blown back. It's still the first thing you see when you turn on SportsCenter.
It's a slow news last couple days.
Still the
news
first
has been
thing
slow.
you see every time you turn on SportsCenter. I think you say he's not going to be fired, which I personally don't think he's going to get fired, but I think there's still a good chance that he might. He did something very wrong, and you say, he reported it to the right channels, but he also said in the beginning of all this that he didn't know anything about it.
And I think that's where
he's lied before.
That's where the situation lies, though, is that he said the big thing at Big Ten Media Day. But if he did report it to proper channels, you're going to suspend or even fire a guy because he lied about it on Media Day?
Well, how do we know they reported it to the right channels?
Well, how do we know he didn't?
How do we know that he did? You're saying that he did just because it's from his mouth.
Yeah, I trust the guy.
Okay, but how do you trust him after he already lied once about it?
Because I trust him. I know what kind of guy he is. I know
you don't know what kind of guy he is.
And I know he's done great things at Ohio State. He changed his
All right, breaking news. Travis sat down with Urban Meyer and knows he's a good guy.
I know what he's done at Ohio State. I know if this was something very serious, he would have reported it. And
it is serious. The guy beat his wife.
We're not exactly sure what happened. It's not an alleged incident. I don't know what happened. You weren't in the room. The only two people that actually know what happened were Zach Smith and his wife. So I don't know what went down there. But I trust Urban Meyer. I know what he's done for Ohio State. He's turned guys' lives around. He did that at Florida too. He tries to help
30
people.
Guys got arrested.
He tries to help people out
under his chin.
He tries to help kids and stuff like that best as he can. There hasn't been any other terrible incidences that he's done. I know with Aaron Hernandez, he sat him down every single night and did Bible study with him. He tries to help people to the best of his ability, and I trust him as a man, not just a football coach. I think he's a good guy.
30 guys got arrested at Florida under his chin.
And then he went to Ohio State, and now past 5 years, we've had maybe 2 to 3 incidences?
I've seen some thugs come there.
Who?
Come to there. Ezekiel Elliott, Carlos Hyde.
Ezekiel Elliott, Carlos Hyde was suspended 3 games.
I think that I've seen some.
Carlos Hyde now.
Carlos
Hyde has now went on to have a great NFL career with no incidences off the field. Ezekiel Elliott,
wasn't he suspended for 6 games?
No incidences off the field. No serious things happening off the field.
When you get suspended when you do something off the field.
Ezekiel Elliott had some issues there, but again,
you just said he had no issues. You just said he had no issues, and now you're coming back saying that he has
in
issues.
the NFL. Okay. Under Urban Meyer's care, he had no problems at Ohio State.
You just said he had no issues, and then Ezekiel Elliott. You said, he has no issues. Had a great NFL career.
That was Carlos Hyde.
But I'm talking about Ezekiel Elliott now.
Carlos Hyde was suspended 2 to 3 games. He was suspended. He took his suspension, came back, went to the NFL. Has now had a great NFL career. Ezekiel Elliott did no problems at Ohio State. Went to the NFL. Had a couple incidences off the field, but again, I wouldn't say that's Urban Meyer's fault. And then JT Barrett had the drunk driving issue. That was resolved. He's now been one of the greatest leaders at Ohio State history, one of the greatest men to ever come through Ohio State. He learned from that. He moved on. I mean, Urban Meyer...
That just proves Ohio State. The greatest guy to ever come through Ohio State, he also got in trouble for drunk driving.
He turned it around, though. You can't blame a guy for one thing and then completely...
The greatest guy to come through Ohio State also got in trouble for drunk driving.
Well, I mean, you can't blame a guy if he made one mistake.
I mean, you made a statement recorded that he's the greatest guy to ever come through Ohio State.
He's one of the greatest men, one of the greatest leaders to come through Ohio State. I will die on that hill. It's the truth. And you can blame it. You can use your bias and blame it.
Also been in trouble by the law.
He's one time.
I haven't been in trouble by the law.
You've been pulled over 6 times.
I've never been in jail.
Exactly. JT Barrett made one mistake. He moved on. He changed it around, and now he had a great career at Ohio State. He's in the NFL right now, competing for a spot with the Saints. But we'll see what happens. I think Urban Meyer has changed, lives at Ohio State and Florida, best to his ability. I don't think he'll be fired over one small incident, and I think we'll move on. And by the end of the week, this week, I think he'll be back in camp working with the guys.
All right.
And that's what's going to happen.
You said it would have been done by the weekend, and it hasn't. So let's see if you're right.
It'll be done by the weekend.
But you did.
We're going to move now because football was on Thursday. We were driving to Wisconsin. We didn't get to watch the game, Ravens versus Bears. We didn't really get to watch as much as we wanted. But football is back, and Al Michaels' voice coming over your television is one of the greatest things ever. And we got to see, a little bit of Lamar Jackson in the second half there. Not much going on. Again, first game, a little rusty. He had a nice touchdown throw to Hayden Hurst, which was pretty cool to see that. The accuracy is there, obviously. He made some plays with his feet. His running game is, I think that's going to be an X factor this year for the Ravens. I don't think he'll play much this year. I think Joe Flacco's got that, but you got to see that. You didn't get to see Mitch Trubisky. Saw Chase Daniels, which I don't know if you know. Chase Daniels has played 10 years in the NFL. Has made $30 million and has only started 2 games.
Yeah, he's a quality backup quarterback though.
2 interceptions. He's pulled one of the biggest. I mean, he's been in the league for 10 years.
Yeah, I know, but
I
agree. He's really made some money, and I think from terms of you need a backup quarterback. He's always been a quality step-in starter.
Yeah, and he's decent, but he didn't really play that well on Thursday. But again, it's the first game, a little rusty. But we're going to do a little bit later, we're going to talk about some of the matchups on Thursday, but we're going to stick with our team reviews of the NFL. We're going to wrap it up this week. We're going to finish off with the Seahawks on Thursday, but we got the Cardinals and the Rams today. Cardinals last year, 8-8. They had a pretty kind of quiet offseason, adding to that quarterback position, though, after Carson Palmer decided to retire. They added Sam Bradford. Obviously, they drafted Josh Rosen with, was that top 10? No, it was what?
Nah, I think it was 8 or 9, so yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Josh Rosen, they added him, one of the top quarterbacks. Added to that offensive line with Justin Pugh. Then they signed Trey Boston late. who I really liked, had a good season last year. But Trey Boston was, trying to make up for the loss of Tyrann Mathieu, which was a huge loss for them, and Tramon Williams, two very key pieces in that secondary that they lost. Obviously, they have Patrick Peterson, one of the best corners in the game. But to lose a guy like Tyrann Mathieu, somebody who's so versatile, that's going to hurt a lot. In the draft, though, they took Rosen, they took Christian Kirk, wide receiver, who I really liked. They took Mason Cole out of Michigan, solid offensive lineman, trying to shore up that offense. But this team has talent. They have David Johnson, who didn't play really at all last year. When healthy, what is probably the best top 3 running backs in the league. Changes the game. Larry Fitzgerald's still a solid target. Chandler Jones is a monster. Patrick Peterson's a monster. And I really like Deion Buchanan, kind of that rover there, linebacker, safety, hybrid. So this team has talent. If David Johnson stays healthy, I don't know what the quarterback position is going to look like. I want to say, Sam Bradford, when healthy, is a decent quarterback, and he is, but he's just never healthy. So I don't think we'll get a full season out of him. I think we'll see Josh Rosen this year. I think they take a step back from 8-8, go 7-9. That's not because David Johnson. That's not because, anything other than Sam Bradford and Josh Rosen. I don't know what's going to go on there. They need some consistency there. And like I said, 7-9. But David Johnson is going to help a lot. That could, move them up above 500, but we'll see.
This team all depends on health. David Johnson obviously is one of the best running backs in the league, if not the best running back in the league when healthy. And then it comes down to Sam Bradford. The reports out of the Cardinals camp I was watching last night is that Sam Bradford has been absolutely lights out, which is what Sam Bradford does when healthy. But the thing is, he's only healthy like a certain amount of games a year, and that's not good. But, if he stays healthy this year, his first year staying healthy, I think the Cardinals can be really, really good. Because, honestly, Sam Bradford is one of the best quarterbacks in the league when he's healthy. I truly believe that. He set the record for completion percentage when he was healthy. He seems to be kind of like a game manager type, but he really gets the ball out quick. Can't really do much with his feet because he's, so brittle nowadays. But he can really complete some passes. I like the receiving core and Larry Fitzgerald and who's the
Christian
Kirk. I love David Johnson out of the backfield. That's an underrated, asset to their offense is out of the backfield, David Johnson. It all comes down to the defense. Like you said, their secondary lost some pieces. They're definitely going to take a step back defensively, but their offense, in my opinion, is scary. And if Josh Rosen needs to step in, I think he's one of the most NFL-ready rookie quarterbacks that's come out in the past few years. So I do have the Cardinals at 8-8, 9-7. I'm gonna go 9-7 because I actually kind of like them this year. But I could see a lot worse than that, and I could see a little bit better than that. All depends on health, like I said. But watch Sam Bradford because apparently he is playing the lights out right now.
Yeah, this team's interesting because 8-8 last year is kind of a boring record, but they have, when healthy, probably 3 top 25, top 20 NFL players on their roster, and Patrick Peterson, David Johnson, and Chandler Jones. I mean, that's interesting right then in itself. And Larry Fitzgerald's first ballot Hall of Famer. So this team has talent. They have a ton of talent, but can they put it all together? I don't know. I'm not sure. Who's the coach there? I'm blanking on that.
Panthers defensive coordinator Steve Wilks.
So he's new this year, so that's going to be interesting to see. Like Truman said, defensive guy, and this defense could use a little bit more help, even though they do have 2 really good defensive players, and they have a bunch of little decent pieces scattered around there, guys that they want to break out who haven't yet. So this team has talent. This isn't like one of those rosters just depleted. They have a ton of players that could really make an impact. I really like the Trey Boston signing. I think he's an underrated safety, somebody who's been needing a home in the last couple of years. So I said 7-9. I'd say right now is probably realistic, but I could see 9-7 or maybe even 10-6. Maybe, I don't know. It's all depending on how Sam Bradford does, how healthy he is, and how well Josh Rosen plays when Sam Bradford is out.
I can really see, depending on health, the Cardinals competing for a wild card spot and being in the mix towards the end. I just wouldn't say right now that they'd get in,
Yeah, we'll see. But like I said, this is an interesting team to watch because if Sam Bradford's healthy, he is a pretty good quarterback, I would say. And the problem is he just hasn't stayed healthy. So we'll see. But now we're going to move to the Rams, probably the most exciting offseason out of any team in the NFL, trading for Brandon Cooks, signing Ndamukong Suh, Marcus Peters, Aqib Talib, Sam Shields, all really, really good players that they brought in. I looked down this, maybe except Brandon Cooks, but everybody else that they signed has been to a Pro Bowl at least once in their career. And Brandon Cooks, I think, is somebody, if you find him a home, he could thrive. He has the talent to do that. But they did lose Sammy Watkins and Tremaine Johnson, two pretty good pieces from last year. But I think they more than made up for that in the offseason. Their draft was kind of slow, although I really liked how they took Okwarawa from, I think it was Oklahoma. Pretty good pass rush. I wanted the Packers to take. He's an interesting prospect. And then this team has talent. Jared Goff's well on his way to being a pretty good quarterback. Todd Gurley's top 5 running back. LaMarcus Joyner's a pretty good safety. And then I like Robert Woods on the outside there at wide receiver. And they have Cooper Kupp, who I really like too. But I could see this team either being one of the best teams in the league or being kind of a disappointment. I know they've had a little bit more talent than the Eagles did a couple years ago, but this is kind of like the Eagles offseason a couple years ago, where they were like the super team, and then they just kind of fell right out of the gate. And I can see that happening. They've only had 1 year of success under Jared Goff. Todd Gurley had a pretty bad sophomore slump. He rebounded last year, bounced back. Could this team fall? Yeah, I could see them falling, maybe even out of the playoffs. This team has too much talent to fail, though, it seems like. So, I don't know. I think they're a contender this year, but I could see, easily them just falling flat on their face and embarrassing themselves.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at talent base, they're probably a top 3 team in the league. But you're right, they're young. You don't really know about Jared Goff yet. Yeah, he had a great season last year, but he...
Team's got some tape on him now.
Team's got tape on him. Defense coordinator's going to figure that offense out in ways. It can't stay on the top for forever. So, we'll have to wait another season to see how he performs. Todd Gurley, he's one of the best running backs in the league. He's going to be a top 3, top 4 pick in your fantasy draft this year. He's a great player. I think he's the face, next to Aaron Donald. Well, we don't know yet. Face of that franchise. But like I said, Aaron Donald, that's a big key. It sounds like it's getting pretty mean over there. He isn't completely not into playing for them right now under the deal he has, and he should. I think he's one of the players. I don't like when players hold out, but I think he's one of the players that should be holding out because I think he's the most impactful player, defensive player in the league right now, but he could be of all time. And the Rams need to pay him, and it seems like they're focusing on other pieces over him, and they shouldn't be. They gave Brandon Cooks a large deal, and Brandon Cooks is a good receiver, but, he shouldn't be getting top receiver money, in my opinion. But they need to get Aaron Donald paid, and I think that's the key to this season. But Ndamukong Suh and him, if Aaron Donald plays, that's going to be an amazing, scary tandem. Same with their cornerbacks, Talib, Peters, that's a scary tandem. You mentioned the safety Joyner, who's a good safety. But I think I'm going to go 11-5, 12-4 for them. I think they are going to compete for a Super Bowl this year, but it all comes down to Aaron Donald and, can this super team, kind of corral themselves and, be everything that people are making them out to be instead of faltering like you said the Eagles did 7 years back.
Yeah, they added talent, but then you go down, Brandon Cooks has had kind of a strange career. People treat him like he's a top receiver, but he's never really performed like a top receiver should. I know the Patriots traded a first-round pick for him. I know his game doesn't really match what the Patriots do, so that's probably why they got rid of him. But then you look, Ndamukong Suh. He's had, issues on the field, off the field. He kind of seems like a guy who's just there for the money. Marcus Peters has had issues on the field, off the field. Aqib Talib has had issues on the field, off the field. Sam Shields, same thing, off the field, on the field issues. We'll see. This is a lot of personalities in one room, and a lot of personalities is going to be pretty hard to contain, especially for a second-year head coach in Sean McVay, who has a lot of hype on him right now. Will he be able to handle it? I don't know. He's a really young guy, not very experienced. He surprised a lot of people last year. And now that tag of, they're kind of underdogs is kind of gone, and people view them as a top team, will they step up, or will they kind of resort back to the Rams the last couple of years? I don't know. Jared Goff, we'll see what happens when, the target's kind of on him this year. We'll see. And they need to figure out Aaron Donald's deal, because that's huge. If they don't bring him back, the more time goes by, the more it hurts the Rams, because the more angry, Aaron Donald gets, and, we'll see what happens. But like you said, 12-4, 11-5 is probably a solid prediction right now, but I wouldn't be surprised if they fall flat out the gate and they just are a mediocre team the entire year, because they're just dealing with tons of stuff in that locker room. But we'll see. We're going to finish up next week with the Seahawks, which is a train wreck of an organization right now. We're going to dive into that next week. But we're going to go to another kind of train wreck of an organization the last couple of years, the Browns. They traded away their first-round pick from the last couple of years, Corey Coleman. Traded him to the Bills. So now the Bills have 2 first-round pick wide receivers who have kind of, not been that great, with Kelvin Benjamin and Corey Coleman. Now you just look at it, you go down the list of first-round picks for the Browns the last couple of years, and they're all either out of the league. None of them are on the Browns. They're all either out of the league or just barely playing. Johnny Manziel's in the CFL right now. It's been kind of a mess the last couple of years. And, losing Corey Coleman isn't that big of a loss when you really look at his on-field production. He hasn't done much, which I was surprised they got rid of him, though, because I thought they wanted to, use him more in the offense this year. You saw last year when he had Josh Gordon, he was kind of playing a little bit better with Josh Gordon. I thought that was a pretty nice little tandem they had there last year. But they have Antonio Callaway, who they really like. I guess they want to see him play more, the wide receiver from Florida. But we'll see. Josh Gordon's still not back yet. It's going to be interesting tonight. Hard Knocks premieres on HBO at 10. We'll get a first-hand look into what's going on there. Especially, I really am interested to see, what Corey Coleman's reaction was when he got traded to the Bills.
Yeah, I think Corey Coleman needs a change in scenery. And Buffalo might be perfect for him. Buffalo needs a receiver, so I think he's going to be, the second, maybe third option there, which is big. And in Cleveland, he would have been kind of swarmed on that depth chart of weapons, because he would have been behind, obviously, Josh Gordon, obviously, Jarvis Landry, David Njoku's going to turn out to be something good. And they said Antonio Callaway's performing really well. So he was just kind of, dug deep on the depth chart, I believe, as far as weapons go for them. But, if I'm the Browns, I would have liked to see more pan out of him, and it's just kind of, it's a Browns thing, it's another first-round pick not panning out. But I think he's gonna perform well in Buffalo. I think he just needs maybe just a little bit of a change in scenery.
Yeah, and he's never really played with, a really good quarterback, so we'll see what happens there. Another sad news, Tom Heckert, former Eagles and Browns GM the last couple of years, spent 27 years in the NFL. He passed away at the age of 51, I believe. Not sure what he passed away from, but it was some sort of disease. So our hearts go out to his family. I kind of remember him when he was with the Browns. Another guy who tried to turn around this franchise, but we've seen a lot of guys fail over the last couple of years, so you can't really blame him for that. But 27 years in the NFL, our hearts go out to him and his family right now.
Yep, definitely. I know the name, but I can't picture him in my head. But anybody, that's tough to, 51 years old, that's tough to lose. I'm sure he's a father, I'm sure he's a husband. So that's just sad to hear.
Yeah. Now we're going to move now to baseball. We're going to talk a little bit more about the preseason Hall of Fame stuff and the question and answer. But we're going to move to baseball. But before that, I want to remind you that our show is brought to you by D's Home Cuts. Tomorrow, me and Truman are going into D's Home Cuts. We're going to get a nice trim up. He just added some refreshments, a little mini fridge in the studio. So it's going to be a great time. $7. You can go in there. Anybody can go in there anytime and get a modern haircut and styling. Every time you go into the shop, you're going to get a professional cut. They get better every single time because he is always upgrading his equipment so he can give you the best haircut and best haircut experience possible. You can find D's Home Cuts on Twitter or Instagram. Set up an appointment right there in his bio. Really easy, really simple. Takes 4 minutes, not even 4 minutes, 2 minutes to set it up. Easy. Like I said, check him out. We're going in there tomorrow, get a fresh cut. We know we will not be disappointed. D's Home Cuts, professional haircuts at a low price. So baseball, the trade deadline has passed, but teams can still do those little weird waiver trades, or they pick up guys last minute. We saw the A's and the Pirates have both done it. The A's got Mike Fiers. I know Truman could talk a little bit more about Mike Fiers, former Brewer. He said put up a pretty nice season there in Detroit. 21 starts. His ERA I think's in the 3s, so it's not terrible. This is, he was somebody everyone thought was going to get moved at the deadline. But now he got moved after it to the A's, which could use some starting pitch right now, and he's a solid arm right there in that rotation.
Yeah, he's not a number 1 guy, not a number 2 guy. Might be your number 3 guy. He's a good, solid pitcher. He's kind of on and off. I really liked him when he was in Milwaukee. He's a good fastball guy. But when he went to Houston, he had that no-hitter, and everyone thought, Mike Fiers is going to be a really good pitcher. Then he kind of faltered off. And now he's just more of a decent pitcher. Going to be good for Oakland. Just kind of throw in there because they do need starting pitching, like you said. But nothing. It wasn't a drastic move. He's not going to change the landscape of the league. But I'd say it's a good move for Oakland.
Another move. The Pirates are still making moves there. They traded for Adani. Can't pronounce the name. Hechavarria. I've known him for a couple years now. He was with the Marlins. He's been a pretty solid defensive player, probably one of the best defensive players in the game. He's a shortstop, second baseman, middle infielder type of guy. But his bat isn't great. He's batting about 240 right now. But I think the Pirates really could use him up the middle. I really like him. I've been watching him the last couple of years when he was with the Marlins. He's really good at defense. He's a fun player to watch in the field. If he get that bat turned around, he could be a potential superstar. But we'll see. You got traded to the Pirates. Again, the Pirates, they're going all in right now. Trading for piece after piece, trying to get this wild card spot. And you can just see it. They're really going for it. They've made a couple moves. Chris Archer made his first start the other day. So I don't know. Truman's Brewers fan might be a little scared about the Pittsburgh Pirates right now.
I'm not scared at all. They're kind of saying screw the rebuild, and they're getting a bunch of players that will just push them potentially into the second wild card spot. But it's going to be hard to the Dodgers and the Diamondbacks. One of those teams going to sit out. One of those teams will be a wild card team. The Brewers and the Cubs are in a heated race. One of those teams will probably be a wild card team. The Braves are looking good. So it's going to be tough for them to get the second wild card spot, but they're making waves. Try and do that. But it's just, I don't know why they're saying kind of screw the rebuild and just going all in. But Chris Archer, you said he got his first start. Didn't look good at all. I think he went 4 innings, gave up a lot of hits and some runs, but he'll be good for them. This is a good move for them though if they want to compete right away, which I think they want to do. But if I'm the Pirates, it doesn't really make much sense because this year really looked like a rebuild year, and I just don't see a path for them to get into that second wild card spot.
Yeah, we talked about it before. The Pirates, beginning of the year, they didn't sign McCutchen back, and everybody thought Josh Harrison wanted to be traded. Everybody kind of predicted them to be a team that just break it down. And they were a good candidate for that. They were playing really well. They were a playoff team. And then, it just didn't happen for them. So, you kind of just break it down and try to, rebuild it through the farm system. But they just said screw it, and they threw all that out the window. They traded away Austin Meadows, one of their best prospects. And they, got guys like Chris Archer, the closer from the Rangers. They got Hechavarria now. This team is going all in, and I think that's all due to the fact that they had a pretty solid first half. Guys who normally don't step up are stepping up. They have some pretty good young pieces right now, especially in that rotation. So we'll see what happens. I think they have the pieces to compete for a wild card spot. They're not a World Series team by any means, or even a division-winning team. But I could see them making it to the playoffs. And Pittsburgh in a wild card game is pretty scary. We've seen that a couple years ago.
Yeah, when they were home, they're not getting a home wild card game.
I don't know. Teams fighting pretty hard right now. The race is pretty close. Anything can happen down the stretch here in August and September.
Yeah, I just really, there's too many teams clogged up there. Because, like I said, between the Brewers and Cubs, one of those teams is going to have to not win their division. Between the Dodgers and Diamondbacks, one of those teams not going to have to win their division. The Rockies are fighting hard. The Braves are fighting hard. and then coming in the Pirates. But if they have enough talent, they could definitely get that second wild card spot. I don't see a way where they would get the first, but we'll see. But it's going to be an interesting August and September.
Yeah, certainly we'll see down the stretch here. It's going to be a lot of changing positions right now. But in the AL, the Mariners, they're fighting pretty hard to get a wild card spot. Robinson Cano, he'll be back by the end of the week. I guess he's going to play some AAA games here soon. Coming back from his PED suspension. That's going to help out a lot for the Mariners. I don't know where he'll play. They've talked maybe first base. The outfield's pretty solid right now. But he's just that bat is going to help out a ton. Coming back to a team in the playoff race right now, it's like trading for a piece at the deadline, getting Robinson Cano back. And that's going to help them out a ton. I know teams tried to kind of get up on them while they were down without Robinson Cano, but him coming back is going to be a huge help for the Mariners as they're still trying to break that playoff drought.
Yeah, it's like I talked about in other shows. It's one of the worst droughts in sports. Mariners fans are just trying to get over that hump because Seattle, they wanted the Seahawks this year. They don't have a basketball team. All they got is the Mariners. So we're gonna see Robinson Cano. Obviously, when healthy, he's one of the better players in the league. But he's getting older and older, so we'll see how he plays. But just get him back in that lineup, and it'll help the Mariners out big time.
Yeah, so we're going to move on now to basketball. Not much basketball news going on right now, so we're going to try to fill some time here. We're going to do some team reviews like we're doing with the NFL, kind of off-season reviews. We'll do a couple each show. Basketball is going to be a little bit quicker than football ones because, there's only 15 players on each roster compared to 53. But little NFL news, NBA news sprinkled in there. Greg Monroe signed with the Raptors. Sure, I'm a big Greg Monroe guy. Can talk about him a little bit. Come off the bench. He had a pretty decent season last year for the Celtics, coming off that bench.
Yeah, he's a good player. He's a really good offensive big, but he cannot play an ounce worth of defense. Absolutely horrible at defense. In fact, he can't guard anybody. But I really like him. He can score. I was disappointed to see him he had to leave Milwaukee because Eric Bledsoe was a good ad. But, like I said last year, he played for 3 different teams. He played for the Bucks, played for the Suns, and then he played for the Celtics. So, he's just trying to find his fit. I kind of feel bad for the guy because all that moving around would suck. But, he's going up to Toronto. I don't know what the deal was, but hopefully he stays there all year.
Yeah, so you mentioned Toronto. We'll do that team first. We're going to go down to the first seed. We're going to do the first seed in the West and the East, and then next show we'll do the second seed in the West and East and just move down all the way to 15. But we're going to talk about the Toronto Raptors. An interesting team. First seed, like I said last year, but again, got knocked out by the Cavs, got swept in the second round, barely surviving the Wizards, and then led to a pretty big offseason, one of the biggest offseasons in team history, I would say. Started, firing their coach of the year, Dwayne Casey. They hired Nick Nurse, longtime assistant there. And that all capped off with the signing, with the trade, actually, for Kawhi Leonard, Danny Green. They trade away a franchise player, a fan favorite, in Kyle Lowry. A lot of change for a team who hasn't seen much change the last couple years. This team is going to be impacted by Kawhi Leonard. If Kawhi plays well, this team will be really, really good. If he doesn't play well, he gets hurt, he stays out, this team's going to fall back. Like I said, it's the East. They're number 1 seed. They still have the talent. DeRozan's a really good player. I could see them getting maybe a 5 or 6 seed even if Kawhi doesn't play. But Danny Green was a good addition. Like we said, Greg Monroe, solid bench piece. And we'll see what Nick Nurse does. But I could see them, Kawhi plays well, I see them right back there, competing for those top 3 seeds with the Celtics and 76ers in the East. The East is pretty weak, so I think they'll get in even if Kawhi doesn't play well.
Yeah, it's Toronto. Kawhi is going to be Kawhi. They're going to be a good team this year, not a finals team, and then they're going to falter off into rebuild mode because Kawhi's going to leave. But
I don't know.
All right, well, you're an idiot.
I can see Kawhi staying.
I'll put my entire bank account on that. So this team's interesting because they added Nick Nurse as their head coach. Like you said, he's a long-time assistant of Dwayne Casey. I don't know how they expect to get over the hump that they fired Dwayne Casey for not getting over by hiring his top assistant, the guy who's been in his system for many, many years. So we'll see. I literally think it's just going to be the Raptors again. I think they're going to be top 2 seed, top 3 seed in the East, and then they'll get down to where they have to play the Celtics, 76ers, Bucks, whatever, and then they'll lose to one of those teams, and one of those teams will go to the finals, and then, like I said, they'll enter rebuild mode. So it's going to be an interesting season for them. Kawhi is a star. He's better than DeMar, but does he really want to be there? Is he going to stay healthy? We'll see. And then Kyle Lowry, he's a good point guard. Hasn't been great. I like the big Jose Valanciunas.
They don't have Kyle Lowry anymore.
What?
They don't have Kyle Lowry anymore.
Where'd he go?
They traded him to San Antonio. Oh, DeRozan got traded.
Yeah.
Oh, man, yeah. I was completely off there. They lost DeRozan, not Kyle Lowry. I completely screwed that up. But this team's still pretty solid. I like Kyle Lowry, actually. DeRozan was a pretty good scorer, but in the playoffs, he would kind of fall off. We've seen it the last couple of years. He'd miss shot after shot. But Truman said this team's not a finals team. I mean, the East is pretty weak. The Celtics are brittle. The 76ers are brittle. These teams can't stay healthy. Kawhi Leonard, when healthy, is an MVP candidate type of player.
But he really can't stay healthy either.
He missed 1 year. We're not exact. Reports are he was healthy. He just had a huge beef with Popovich. But this team, if Kawhi is what he was the last couple of years, I could see them going to the finals. I don't think they'll beat Golden State, but I could see it completely changing around. That's going to play on if Nick Nurse is a good coach, if Kawhi stays healthy. So a lot of factors going against them, but I could see them reaching the finals, even with out DeRozan. I could see this team kind of overcoming that hump. No more LeBron in the East, and Kawhi, like I said, he's an MVP candidate when healthy.
We'll see. I just think it's the Raptors, so I wouldn't pick them. I'm not going to put them in my finals, but they'll definitely be a top 3 seed, and they'll be a scrappy team.
All right, next team we're going to do the Rockets, the number 1 seed. A team that could have upset the Warriors last year if Chris Paul would have stayed healthy. Kind of interesting offseason for a team who was the number 1 seed. You don't really need to add much when you're the number 1 seed, but to defeat the Warriors, you got to do that. They lost 2 solid pieces though, in Trevor Ariza and Luke Malamute went to the Clippers. So this team did lose some pretty good pieces, but they added a superstar in Carmelo Anthony. They were able to keep Clint Capella, which was huge. Carmelo's going to provide that scoring need that they needed last year, that boost. Chris Paul stays healthy last year, I think they would have beat the Warriors in those conference finals. But we'll see what happens. If Melo meshes with this team, which I think he could, because this is the first time he's ever really played with one of his best friends in Chris Paul, I think James Harden will kind of go along with it. I think they'll all learn to be pretty good friends, pretty good teammates. And like I said, they have a really good bench with Eric Gordon. They have Nene. This team is a pretty quiet team, even though everybody's picking the Warriors. But I could still see the Rockets. They had a shot to beat the Warriors last year, and they just added more talent over the offseason.
I agree they added talent. I know we talk shit about Melo just despite you, but he's a good scorer. His defense is scary, but he'll be a good addition to them. Well, we'll see about his defense.
It's scary good.
It was big for them to get Clint Capella back, but I just don't see them being more talented than the Warriors.
They had him right there.
Chris Paul is fragile. You can't really bank on him to be healthy the entire season. Carmelo's getting older. James Harden. He's had a lot of wear and tear. You don't know how he's going to perform after his MVP season. So I just don't, I always say when they're playing, I said it when they, were facing the Warriors, they don't have the Kevin Durant. They have the backcourt to match up with Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, but they don't have that piece that's just unstoppable LeBron type Kevin Durant. They can't guard Kevin Durant. I know you're gonna say Carmelo can, but he can't. He can't. No, he can't. Kevin Durant's the second best player in the league. I'm extremely close to just putting him over LeBron.
Yeah, I'm right there too.
But Kevin Durant is just Kevin Durant. And, now they have DeMarcus Cousins, who's going to be able to take out Clint Capella
Don't know how it's going
if
to mesh.
healthy. I mean, you don't know how he's going to mesh, but I think when you have that talent, it's just it overrides the whole mesh thing, because you don't know how Melo's going to mesh.
Melo will be fine.
So will Cousins.
Trust me.
And Cousins will take out Clint Capella, and then it kind of, I think DeMarcus Cousins is better than Clint Capella. So I think the Warriors got better, and the Rockets stayed the same. So I think the Rockets are going to falter behind the Warriors again this year, but they're still a contender, and they still have, if someone were to go down for the Warriors, the Rockets are right there.
I don't think the Rockets stayed the same. I think they either got better or they got worse. Trevor Ariza was a big loss for them. He was kind of a pretty good wing player for them. Melo doesn't provide, I'll admit it, that kind of defensive ability that Ariza brought, but he does have a lot more scoring ability than Ariza. And Melo, I think, was kind of underrated last year. I know a lot of people get a lot of hate for that, but he really didn't play in a great system for him. I think D'Antonio's played with him before. He knows how to use Melo. He knows how to get the best out of Carmelo Anthony. Carmelo's playing in a situation where he went to a team he actually wants to go to. He picked the Rockets. He picked playing with Chris Paul, one of his best friends the last couple of years. I think you're going to see a little bit of a resurgence from Carmelo Anthony this year. I know I'm a Carmelo Anthony fan, and that's a little biased, but I think you're going to get the best out of Carmelo this year. Whatever he has left in those legs of his, whatever he has left in that shot, I think you're going to get the best of it this year. And I think he turns around, his entire perception of himself as just kind of an old, washed-up superstar. So we'll see what happens. I think they either got better or they're going to get worse. This team could completely fall apart with injuries. Let's say it doesn't mesh very well. This team could fall apart. But I think they have a lot of talent, and I think this is a team that could sneak into the finals, beating the Warriors, in 6 or 7 games, because they had them on the ropes last year. And, let's say one injury away, I think, the Rockets would be in those finals if Chris Paul never got hurt. I think the same could be said for this year. Something happens to, let's say, Kevin Durant. Something happens to Steph Curry, who has a pretty bad ankle problem. You never know. This team could surprise a lot of people.
I think the Warriors got better, and I think the Rockets, if they got better, they didn't get much better, and they might have got worse. So I think they can surprise some teams. They can beat the Warriors, like you said, but it's not a safe pick to pick the Rockets over the Warriors.
We'll see. We'll see how the season goes. Now we're gonna move to question and answer. Got a couple questions. But our show is still brought to you by A's Lawn Service. Since 2014, A's has been providing professional landscaping to many homes around Northeast Ohio. By using professional equipment, A's constantly strives to provide families with professional landscaping at a low and fair price. Turn to A's and trust me, your lawn and your home will never look better. Trust A's for all your landscaping needs, and you will not be disappointed. The phone number is 330-241-2392. Again, 330-241-2392, and the email is lawnservice.a's@gmail.com. A's Lawn Service, you grow it, we cut it. So, we had the Pro Football Hall of Fame ceremonies over the weekend. Biggest story I would say is Terrell Owens not showing up. It's kind of a sad scene. He did it in like a gymnasium at his old college, like 2,000 people. I know Truman gives me a lot of hate. I really do think Terrell Owens has kind of been disrespected the last couple of years, but he should have went to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. He should have showed up. That's an honor. It's a privilege. You see guys who never get there, who deserve to get there, and you see guys like Jerry Kramer who waited, a long time to finally get the shot to go on stage. I think he'll come around. I think one of these years they'll accept him back in. He's a part of that family now, part of that brotherhood. I think a couple of years he'll show up. Hall of Fame will do something big for him, finally showing up to the Hall of Fame. He'll come around. It's just going to take a couple more years. It was sad watching him do that in the gym. And, I don't know. I think he'll come around, though, in a couple of years and eventually make his way back to Canton.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense to me. I'm not even going to I'm not even gonna talk about it because that made me so mad. He's going. I don't even want to give him anything. But I loved how Jerry Kramer was up there. Obviously a little biased because I'm a Packer fan. He's one who should have been complaining. He should have been in there many years ago. And he just got put in. Absolute classic. Didn't get enough love because of all the newer players that got in. Ray Lewis, Brian Dawkins. But Jerry Kramer was really, really cool. One of the biggest snubs for a while. And that was awesome to see. Brian Dawkins, I remember him when he was with, the Eagles. He really talked about the hard times he had, and that was, another emotional speech, which was really cool. And then Ray Lewis. Ray Lewis gets a lot of hate. I love him. He's one of my favorite players of all time. I love how he stands up there and gives his speeches, and, I know he can ramble on a lot, and, but I think, he's a really good player, and, he's another one. He had his right to stand up there. For as long as he wanted because he's that great of a player. And then Randy Moss, one of the best receivers of all time, even though he's a Viking, but that was another cool one to see go in. But overall it was awesome. Canton's, one of the best places, to be around that time. I suggest going if you have the chance one of these years when one of your favorite players gets in the Hall of Fame, get up there and see it because it's really a cool experience.
Yeah, it's cool to see. I know we saw it a little bit last year, but you're starting to see guys get in who, me and Truman both, watched on TV, kind of remember their prime a little bit. I know, like, Brian Urlacher, he gave us fits for the last couple of years there. Ray Lewis, these are guys who were kind of staples in the NFL when we were first coming up, kind of watching. I know, like, last year, like, LaDainian Tomlinson, I remember him with the Chargers and stuff like that. So it's cool to see guys that you watched on TV kind of make their way in, because for so many years it was like guys would get in that you really don't remember playing, you just stories about them, so it's cool to see guys that you watched, that you talked about, guys you put in your fantasy leagues, get in, especially a guy like Randy Moss, who everybody remembers that season with the Patriots where he was just him and Brady. That was probably one of the best wide receiver quarterback, tandems that season ever. I don't even know how many touchdowns he caught, but it was insane. So Randy Moss, Brian Urlacher, Brian Dawkins, all these speeches, Ray Lewis, they're all pretty good. Everybody gets to go up there and say what they want to say. I don't really care about the length. It doesn't matter to me because, these guys work so hard for that. They work so hard for those 20, 30 minutes that they get to speak. And I think they should be able to talk as long as they want. So I know people hated on Ray Lewis because it was so long, and he's kind of preachy, but I like that. I really like that passion that he brings. That's what he brought to the game every single, day in his career, and that's why he's in the Hall of Fame. So that's it for that. I wrapped up another great weekend, another great Hall of Fame weekend, and I'm excited for next year. It's going to be some good guys going in again next year. Then we got Thursday. We got more football, the preseason matchups. We're going to do a show on Thursday, but we wanted to give our best matchups for Thursday. We wanted to go down it. Games that we're going to be watching. Obviously, the Packers, me and Truman are going to be watching if they're on TV. I'm not sure what games are on TV. But we're in Cleveland, so we're going to get the Cleveland and Browns and the Giants game, which I think everybody's going to be watching because I guess Baker Mayfield's going to play a lot. And that's a guy I really want to see. Really want to see Saquon Barkley. But the Browns are probably the team I'm going to be watching the most because I want to see, how this team comes together after that crazy offseason. Are they going to be, playoff caliber team, or are they just going to be, another 0-16, 1-15 type of Browns?
Yeah, I want to see the Browns because I want to see Baker Mayfield. Just because I don't know. I mean, we know what Tyrod Taylor is. I don't need to see a lot of Tyrod Taylor, but everyone wants to see Baker Mayfield. Is he performing as people say? He's lights out in camp, but we'll see. This is the first real test.
He's going to play a lot.
I think it said he's going to play 2 quarters, so I obviously want to see Baker Mayfield play.
Next game I would say is Indianapolis versus Seattle. Andrew Luck's going to be playing. I really want to see what he looks like after that shoulder, issue, debacle, whatever you want to call it. That was a mess. But I guess he is going to be playing. And you get to see Seattle. You get to see kind of, how they look after pretty bad offseason. The team is just falling apart. We'll talk about them on Thursday. I know me and Truman love to see that because we do not like Seattle at all. They've given the Packers plenty of problems over the last couple of years. But it's going to be interesting to see how Andrew Luck plays. Is he, that top 5 quarterback that we saw a couple years ago, or is he, really affected by the shoulder?
Yeah, I want to see Andrew Luck. It's gonna take some time for him to get back acquainted into the league, and this is the first step for him doing that. Frank Reich, it's gonna be kind of a new look Colts, and I think with Andrew Luck fully healthy, they're a contender. So it'll be interesting to see them, and then obviously, like you said, Seattle.
Yeah, it's just a mess over there right now in Seattle. Obviously, Thursday, tons of games going on, tons of rookies playing, showing up. First preseason game is really exciting. I know a lot of people turn off the preseason games after the second half, but I think that's one of the best times to watch because you're watching these roster bubble guys who might get cut, competing, and guys like that when they know their job's on the line, they really show out, and it's really fun to watch. So we'll see what happens. There's games on Friday too. We'll break down our best matchups for Friday on Thursday's show. But like I said, Thursday's going to be pretty exciting. But that's it for today. We wanted to remind you that our show is brought to you by D's Home Cuts and A's Lawn Service. Give them a call, set up an appointment, do your thing with them, because those are really 2 great companies that we've been working with for a long time. Go on iTunes, give us 5 stars, rate, review, subscribe. Follow us on Twitter at TNTSportsDoc12. See our picture with Brian Gutenkais, which was a life-changing moment for me and Truman. DM us questions, comments, concerns. You want to be a guest on the show, send us a DM through Twitter. It's always open, even if you don't follow us. You should, though. Instagram, you can follow us on there. We'll post pictures of our guests, stuff like that. Listen to us on 12 Ounce tomorrow from 12 to 1, 12ouncesports.com. Listen to us on YouTube when you're just chilling, hanging out, you want to catch up on your sports. But that's it for today. Why don't you have a great day. Tune in on Thursday. We're going to have our Fantasy Football League champion, reoccurring guest, Zach Berlovin, back in studio. We're going to kind of do a fantasy football type of episode. We're going to give you some headlines still. We'll give you our Seahawks review. But it's going to be a fantasy football type of show, sleepers for each position, giving you the best way to win a league. I won 2 years ago that league. Zach won a year ago. Truman's been playing for a long time. We know what we're doing. We'll give you some tips for people who really don't know how to play fantasy football, and we'll try to help you win your league. But that's it. Tune in on Thursday. It's going to be a great show, and just have a great day.
Yep, go Packers.